Hey everybody, welcome to etrailer.com. I'm Bobby, and today we're taking a look at the Titan Chain snow tire chains with V-bar support links on our 2020 Jeep Gladiator. So these are going to be an excellent way, guys, of helping you get through that heavy-duty snow and ice that you guys are being running into. Why is that? Well, like I said, we are going to have these V-bar links on here. So underneath that, we have our traditional twisted link, or maybe non-traditional, I should say, but that twisted link. And on top of that, we do have those nice little V-bar support struts, doing a great job of biting through that snow and that ice. Especially big chunks of ice are going to stand up to nothing of these guys. We also are having a ladder style chain. What that means, you guys can see I can fit my whole hand within each of these spots here. So we are going to have a little less smooth of a ride, especially with these V-bars. You're really going to feel it. And a couple little other caveats with that too. You know, we're going to get great start and stop maneuver capabilities with these guys because we have these hills and valleys to overcome. However, like I said, we have to overcome them. So if you start making left and rights with these guys, you're going to feel just a little bit of loss on that turning radius just because of the necessary acceleration to actually get you through those turns. Now, we also do have a low carbon steel construction with these chains. What that means for ourselves, we are going to see a little bit of wear and tear on them. It's going to be very important for us to actually get all those corrosive elements off of it. So the salt, the chemicals we're spraying on the ground, spritzing these guys off when not in use is going to be huge. And especially in the off season, a little bit of oil and grease can go a long way of making sure that they're ready for the next time we need them. Another thing about the V-bars as well, these are not going to be safe to actually drive around in your garage or your driveway. So they are only for in-use purposes. And at that regard, they make them a little bit harder to install in my mind. So twisted link can be a great option if you don't want something as aggressive as these V-bars, but if we are kind of locked into them, I still think that this chain works very, very well. The one thing I'll say, you also are probably noticing this rubber tensioner we have on here. Now this is going to be a separate purchase available here at etrailer.com. It's taking out that last little bit of slack that we're having on here with this chain, making sure it stays nice and attached. The one thing I'll say about this, we actually do have this chain available with cams. And I highly recommend just looking at that cam version as well. Makes it a lot easier. We don't have to have a rubber tensioner. And as long as we keep that tool that comes included with it, we'll have an A-OK time pulling those cams in and really taking all that slack out of our chain, and it stays nice and tight to our vehicle, which is awesome. So talking about installation, it's not the easiest, definitely not the hardest. When you're comparing it to the ones I've done on the Gladiator, predominantly almost all the chains are going to have you on the other side of your wheel. So that's something we're going to have to work with and just deal with innately just by being on the Gladiator here. But again, I feel like that cam system makes it just a little easier. And we're about to break you guys down in that install. Before we do, just a few little caveats. The big one going to be, we are here today on our 255 R70, 255/70 R18 tires. Let's make sure we're putting our own tires into the fit guide here at etrailer.com. That way we're getting the right fit for ourselves. And we do have a four-wheel drive vehicle here today. So that's why we've thrown it here on the front, mainly because it's going to be safer, of course, to always just grab yourself a set of two pairs of chains. That way you have one for your front and your rear tires. However, if we are kind of limiting ourselves to one, I would suggest here on the front, mainly because that's where all you're going to steering is mainly going to be, where a lot of your weight of your vehicle is. And then primarily, as you go to stop in those icy conditions, that weight of your vehicle is going to shift forward. So is that momentum. And we want to get as much of that traction control towards the front of our vehicle as I think we can. But of course, it can vary from state to state as well. So let's make sure we are checking all of our local jurisdictions. But otherwise, all that aside, not going to take us too long to actually get this installed. Let us go ahead and see how we can do that together. To begin our installation, all we want to do is lay out our chains just like we're seeing them. What we're looking for here, any kind of kinks or binds in our chain. Now the V-bars tend to kind of find themselves looped on each other quite a bit. All you gotta really do, walk them out, unbend them just like you're seeing. The other important things to take note of here is making sure your cam lever is on the outside, as that's what we're gonna be using on our outside connection on the front of our wheel. And the other thing is to make sure that our hard points of contact are facing up. What do I mean by that? Well, you can see where our chain has been brought back over onto itself. We want these little struts on the outside of our wheel. That way they're not interacting with our tire, puncturing it or damaging it in any kind of way. But now that that's all been taken care of here, it looks like we don't have any kind of kinks or binds. We just need to begin to set it on our tire. To do that, bring yourself to the middle of your chain and just begin to set it on top. I like to wing out my arms here, just makes it a little easier to make sure I'm not interacting with that rim. Then we just gently set it on either side of our wheel, checking our fit as we go. Make sure these are as horizontal or as straight as we can make them. And I like to kind of take my last little bit of my chain here towards the bottom and see how it's fitting. I can see I have a little bit of extra room there on the left, so what I'm gonna do, just kind of shift these guys just a little bit. That way we get a little bit of a better fit. But once that's done, we just need to bring ourselves to the other side of our wheel to make our first connection. Here we are on the underside of our vehicle, on the other side of our wheel, and we need to make our first back connection. So we're gonna have our extra chains here and our open hook. All we have to do, set them in place. I'm gonna go, and if I set it in here, I'm also gonna take a look, see how it sits in the, I might go one more chain shorter here. So that's leaving me with 3 extra chains. Now these guys can start interacting pretty poorly here on the back side of your tire. So not right now, but later after we've confirmed the fit of our chains and made sure we have the proper kind of length to actually get around it, we want to come back and remove these as we don't want them flopping around causing noise or getting tangled up in anything on the underside of our vehicle. So let's go ahead, make sure we come back at a later step. With our rear connection made, that brings us to our last one here in the front. All I'm going to do, try to take my chain here and set it in place on my cam lever system. Now I'm going to about the 3rd one for now, just to see how I can make it work, and if I can. And we simply want to take our chain, rotate it back just like so. And as we do that, we want to bring our extra chain on the other side, pressing down on our lever. And right now I'm getting a little bit of interference here with my chain. Let me see if I can't swing these guys backwards just a little bit to gain me a little more access. That way it's not in the way as I slide this down my lever, just like so, as they're nice and out of the way. Now I simply bring that lever back, pushing it down, bringing it to that extra chain, and there we are. So as it sits right now, we have just a little bit of extra slack. So we do need to also grab ourselves some rubber tensioners. That way we're pulling all that extra slack towards the center of our wheel and it stays nice and tight to it. So let me go ahead and grab those and throw them on. And all I got to do is simply bring these down, make sure my hooks are pointed away from my wheel, of course, and you can notice I'm kind of going across from my other side. So much like a lug nut, except with one more post, we're just going to go around, making sure to spread out that force. That way everything's being brought to the center of our wheel. And just like that, we're nice and held in. So you can see where it's doing a good job of pulling out just that little extra bit of slack, making sure that we stay nice and tight here on our wheel. We're ready to rock and roll. Well, as you guys saw, the install doesn't take too much time. Again, I would just recommend going with the cam system. That way, we don't have to have a secondary purchase with these rubber tensioners, and it's always one more thing to lose, which is never fun. Now, you do get a little canvas bag with these guys as well. I will say that's gonna break down really, really quick, especially if it's wet, and they just don't really seem to hold up that well. A little small tote can go a long way of making sure your chains are always ready to go, and makes it a little bit easier to protect them as well. Like I said, I really like these guys. I really think the aggressive option is excellent for people who find themselves really needing, that heavy duty snow and ice application. However, if you're not really experiencing too much, I would recommend maybe looking at this Twisted Link, just because we are gonna have a little bit harder time getting these on in our garage, as it can start tearing up those floors and that cement. So otherwise though, guys, I think that about does it for our look here today at the Titan Chain Snow Tire Chains here on our 2020 Jeep Gladiator. I'm Bobby. Thank you for watching.